Hi everyone, welcome to ELI, the place where you get your daily dose of inspiration for entrepreneurship. And today we have with us Mr. Ishan Grover, who is the founder of Swish, which is a personal hygiene brand crafted with a mission to make hygiene a habit in India. Hi Ishan, welcome to ELI.
Hi. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me here. Such a pleasure.
I would request you to introduce yourself to our audience, please.
Right. So my name is Ishan Grover, and I'm co-founder for Swish. Swish is actually, like you said, it's a personal care brand focusing on personal hygiene, and we are one of the category creators and innovators for male intimate hygiene, which is a very niche market in India. We started our journey in 2020 during middle of pandemic, which I will probably narrate my story how I ended up opening Swish. But yes, it's been just 20, we just finished our 24 months and been a roller coaster ride, and currently loving it what I'm doing.
Awesome. Uh, Tell us a little bit about your background, as in what did you study, or how did you get introduced to the category you are operating in, and what is the reason you chose to do something around this industry or category?
So very interestingly, before COVID 2020, I was into craft beer industry. I actually one of those initial guys who started craft beer revolution in the country. I've done MSc in brewing and distilling from Scotland,
Mm-hmm.
and everything was going on really well until COVID happened, and we kind of reached to a point where major 99% of my business was shut overnight, and we had no
Mm-hmm.
idea how to overcome this. And during that time, I guess, so my co-founder was from advertising agency. His name is JD. He had moved to Canada, and he was here just for 1 week, and then Modi ji announced lockdown, and he couldn't travel back to Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And both of us sitting at home, every day we were losing money. Our employees were like literally had no jobs, and we had no clarity from government how things were going to move in. So
Mm-hmm.
there was very clear decision in my mind whether I sit back and wait for things to get better, which eventually didn't get better till last year, or pivot and think about doing something better. And I guess during that time, hygiene became one of the most important topics, and everybody was realizing how important your hygiene products are. And and that time I realized, uh, if I have to use certain product for rest of my life, it needs to fit in my lifestyle. It needs to have it
Mm-hmm.
cannot it cannot act like a pharmaceutical product, so otherwise I will not use it. And I
Mm-hmm.
realized most of the sanitizers, disinfectants and everything, very they had a very gloomy and a very
Right.
functional look. And we
Yeah.
realized that, so when me and JD used to talk, we used to say, "Hey, can I make something for millennials and Gen Zs?"
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we said, if we have to make it, we have to make it very cool, and we have to make it very swag. Needs to have a fashion statement. Needs to fit in one's lifestyle. So
Mm-hmm.
that's where we decided. We started our first range with hand sanitizer, which looked like a deodorant. So a
Mm-hmm.
Deo just a sanitizer, which was our tagline. And I created a category called gadget disinfectant vibe. So I'm still a market leader in that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure you might have also done it during those time. Everybody was spraying
That's right.
sanitizers
Yeah.
on their phone, and everybody was complaining our phone chal nahi raha. So I said, okay. So we came up with a gadget disinfectant vibe, which is 100% biodegradable, phenomenally great formulation, very effective. And obviously, when you smell it, it smells great. It's a very personal product you're using on your phone. So that gave us an initial success, how we started with it. And then slowly and steadily, we always realize that, always identify a need
Mm-hmm.
and then innovate in that need. And if we are able to do both these things together, obviously the company will grow. Hence the success, reason of our success is, well, we've identified what is missing in this market. We have innovated traditional formats. For example, we recently, last year, we launched a category called hair removal spray for men, which is India's first hair removal spray for men. And for generations, people created products for women, which was there in depilatory cream, but nobody had thought about doing it for men, and men had issues. So there are players, there are creams available, but
Mm-hmm.
we realized that we as men are very lazy. We want things with a lot of convenience. So I thought, can I make a spray? And that spray should put on my body evenly, and I wait for 8-10 minutes, and then swish, and it's gone. And that comfort of doing things so easily, and the packaging in itself made us the category leader in that segment. We were the first one to innovate something like this. And further on, we introduced more products in intimate hygiene for men, which was very ignored. I'm sure you might have. I don't know if you ever had. During summers, most of us get inner thigh rashes and
Right.
everything because
Yeah.
of humidity. The only solution that you could find in the market was mostly tubes or powders or something like that. So we introduced India's first roll on. You don't have to messy your hands; just roll it on, and your thigh rashes is no longer a problem. And we identified how many men were suffering from this issue, and nobody was doing anything about it. And we innovated, created a difference in the product, and that's what gave us almost. We've grown almost 2,000% in 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what separates us from a lot of people who started businesses.
Right. I would love to go a little back in time and want to understand prior to entrepreneurship, what were your visions about future? How did you grow up? And where did you find that bug of entrepreneurship? I mean, why? What motivated you or triggered you to try your hands on?
Honestly, I have only worked in my life for 11 months. That's my only job in almost 12 years back. I've always been an entrepreneur. And one of the things I think why I always did that, because I always had this thing that, I have to create things. And I always, like I said, I started a craft beer revolution in the country. I've set up more than 70 breweries in India. I've set up a huge trend in the market. And for some reason, I always had a thing that, whatever industry nobody touches, I am one of the pioneers in that. So alcohol making, nobody could imagine a guy making beers in the morning and whiskeys in the morning.
Mm,
So as an entrepreneur, I've always been an entrepreneur from 2012 itself. I've done various startups in different walks of life, and failed in most of them. But eventually, it's a journey, and then each startup teaches you something, and then you learn, and then you grow, and you understand these are the mistakes we did that time. We shouldn't do that. But yeah, unfortunately, I've always been an entrepreneur since the beginning.
got you. Uh, Being an entrepreneur is also a challenging job. So tell us about the challenges, as in how do you manage people? How do you manage the changing market needs and the different market factors like war and uncertainties, funding for winter, and how do you? What are the different challenges that you have faced, and how did you tackle them?
I think for every entrepreneur, the challenges pretty much remains the same. I think one of the one of the most difficult tasks is to take decisions every single day, every single minute, because there are so many people dependent on your decision, and your decision has to be right most
Mm,
of the time. Even though if it is wrong, it has serious implications on you, on your company, on your people who are working with you.
mm,
And I think one of the biggest challenges that every entrepreneur, including me, faces is taking a right decision and
right.
following your vision. But managing people is, yes. I think this is one of the biggest concerns for every single one, because people who come and work for you. They have high expectations, and we have high expectations. There is result that needs to be achieved. At the same time, there has to be some sort of balance in life, and
Mm,
I usually try to keep that balance with my people around, and try to motivate them as much as I can. But it's a tough job. It's a really tough job. You can't always be doing the same thing. So yeah, managing people becomes a task over a period of time, and And what actually I do to keep these things is I usually don't take that much of stress. I
Hmm.
try like moment 7 p.m. 8 p.m. I usually try to unwind, and whatever happens in office stays in office. After that, like even if I have shouted on somebody, we probably go down and over a chai sort things out and see let's fix this tomorrow
Hmm.
instead of dragging it overnight and ruining his or her mood and taking stress home back. That's what I do.
Got you. You said you take a lot of decisions, and that's true. Every entrepreneur has to take thousands of decisions throughout the lifetime. Every day is a new challenge. But there are some days when you are not yourself really. You are not feeling 100%, and that day probably some of the decision you take might turn up as a blunder or something like that. So, can you? I mean, I am not saying you have done it, but can you share some of the stories of very bad decisions you took, or maybe some blunders you did during your entrepreneurship?
I think one thing that I have learned over a period of time, if I'm not certain about something, I usually delay the decision. I don't take. I've learned that delayed decision it's a decision itself. So if I'm unable to solve something at a particular point of time, I genuinely ignore it and wait it for 1 or 2 days and then see how things pan out. If you give some decision a time, you eventually get a clarity whether it was right or wrong. But yes, many wrong decisions of my life. I don't know if I should tell publicly, but yeah, I think the wrong decision is what makes you right over a period of time. And whenever I have taken a wrong decision, has always been a learning from it, and I always thank that I took that decision, because if I would have not taken the decision, that I would have never reached where I am today. So yeah, that's
Got
a
you.
non-political way to answer this.
Got you. You are now cracking the D2C market, and D2C is probably one of those segments in India which is growing very fast, and lot of D2C companies are coming up, and the consumers are also changing their preferences. They are preferring D2C brand over a typical generic brand which is available on the store, on the physical store. So a lot of our listeners, they are also aspiring D2C founders. They want to do something in the D2C space. So tell us a little bit about the dynamics of this industry, how to crack the market, how does someone find a product that really is needed in the market, and how do you find the distribution channels, what are the different channels available, and what is the technique? Do you start with advertisements, or do you start with product sampling, and what is the way to crack the market?
Okay, I still don't know what is the way to crack the market. I'm still learning that. But yes, there's so many questions in the single question that you have asked. So I'll try to answer them very individually. I think D2C as a segment, if you go back 10 years back, if you had to build some business, you need a lot of wealth to do it. And literally, there was no option for you to start and gain success, because the distribution was very tedious. Retails is something that, as a consumer brand, it was very difficult to do it. You need large budgets.
Hmm.
Direct to customer, thanks to internet penetration, I think that problem has been solved, and now entrepreneur like us can really reach out to the market and test our products at a very minimal cost, which usually doesn't happen, couldn't happen if there was no internet penetration or the D2C space. So I think that's how the dynamics of D2C works. Is how does one start is something that, let's say you have an idea and you want to test it out. You can very easily set up a store at Shopify and just test the market out on Facebook. Easiest way of starting anything, and you understand what is the need, if there is a need, if people are buying your product or not. You sample it and you get your feedback. During this time, I usually tell people is you have to wait for at least 10,000 orders to reach to a certain conclusion, because by then, if your product was just a fad, if there was any feedback required, if there's a product improvement required,
Mhm.
or what are the challenges that you face over a period of time. I think the right benchmark, probably it was for me. I had this 10,000 rule where I have to first do 10,000 customers. And once I did that, next 1 lakh became easy. Now we have done almost 2.5 lakh customers in just 24 months. So I think that's a very thing. And third thing I feel is while you are scaling up, while you find it, I think Facebook is the best platform initially to start with because you have low budgets and you literally don't know if you go into marketplaces, Amazon and Flipkart, unless you have a really, really great product, it's very difficult for any brand to establish onto marketplaces at a very early stage. So low entry cost barrier is Facebook. You can start advertising on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, whatever works, and start doing the business with them. But over a period of time, you need to understand what is selling today might not sell again if you don't focus on building a brand equity.
Uh, Tell us about some of the interesting lessons that you have learned during your entrepreneurial journey. Some
Don't go fast. It's a slow journey. If you like, I'm sorry I interrupted it between. That was another lesson for me. But yeah, biggest lesson that I've learned is if you see something spiking and you see an initial traction for any business, anything, you just have to wait. You have to reach to a point whether that growth is stable. Inorganically growing anything will lead you to accidents, and those can be very, very expensive accidents.
Mhm. Speaking of growth, sometimes what startups do is they find some growth hacks and they deploy them to achieve quick growth without spending a lot of money. So, any growth hacks that you have deployed and found success in it, which can be, copied or adapted by other uh, aspiring founders.
Honestly, I've never found a growth hack till now. We've struggled a lot with everything. We've learned it from the hard way, and we've built our business with a lot of hard work. I have heard stories of how Facebook is this and how it never gave us. We started very slowly, steadily, and it took us 2 years to reach. Sorry, it took us 2 years to reach where we are today, and it was just built on with a lot of patience. And unfortunately, there was no growth hack that I could use so far. Maybe I'll listen to the podcast, and if there is other people who have found it, I probably use that.
Uh, in D2C, can you tell us what are some of the numbers that you track on a everyday basis to understand which direction your venture is growing, or I mean, what is the progress rate, if I were to?
I think some of the very specific numbers one should track is definitely your ROAS, which is return on ad spend. You have to see which channel is performing and whether that is giving you returns or not, whatever you have advertised. I think that's where your major cash burn also goes out. So that is one thing that I usually tell, I mean, highly recommend one should see. And second thing is your RTOs. RTOs kill the business. So if RTO numbers are going high, no matter how much top line you add, it eventually ends up being anything. And in RTO, I usually tell people is a lot of shipping industry say, yeah, this is an industry standard. It's actually not an industry standard. It's something that you have to understand that why is customer returning your order or why that order was not delivered to that customer. And there's several factors to it. So one is ROAS, second is RTO, third is if you could focus on the feedback score. I have had instances where I've got bad feedbacks about things, and instantly I understood that I need to put a mechanism in place where I'm able to get a first-hand experience feedback from my consumer. And I still do it. I directly get an access to any feedback that comes to our Swish portal,
Mhm.
and immediately address it in multiple ways. Address that problem immediately with the client, with the customer, and go back do a deep dive analysis. What were the numbers, how many people are saying the same thing, and what is required to fix it. If you don't listen to the customer, no, you can't survive. You just can't ignore them. You can't build a brand without working on your feedbacks. So I
Gotcha.
think these three are very, very important. And then don't burn money. You have to check your beta margins, betas.
Right.
That's the fourth metrics.
You spoke about the 10,000 customer rule. Um, but in general, I want to understand what is product market fit in D2C industry or in any industry in general. How is there a measurable way to find that your product is market fit, and then you can go after the market with all the cash and marketing budgets.
See, what we did, I can tell you that we introduced. We don't have many products in our bouquet. We only have like 14, 15 products, and each product represents a very, very large category. And in that category, we thought this is a problem, this is a problem, this is a problem, and we launched our products. But we when you actually go into the market,
Mm.
and then you realize it could be problem for you, but it can't be a mass level problem. So moment you realize that one of your product is being sold at is being continuously sold, and you have repeat customers coming to you to buy that product, which is your it also builds your LTVs. So
Mm.
that's when you realize, okay, there is a need, and then there is a product market fit. And moment you've reached a certain point consistently for 6 or 7 or 8 months, and your customer acquisition cost goes starts going down, is when you realize, okay, this product definitely there is a need for it, and you have done some innovation, and people are accepting it. There is great feedback. So I think for me that's product market fit. Uh, yeah, I would define that.
Got you. My final question for you. What is the meaning of entrepreneurship for you? How would you define the term entrepreneur, or who is an entrepreneur as per you?
Entrepreneur is a superstar. Yeah. It needs you need to have a lot of patience. You need to have a lot of flamboyance. You need to have a lot of confidence. You need to have smile all the time, no matter how hard the journey is. You are the hero of the film, and you have to act like one, because if you are down, the entire company goes down. Yeah.
Okay, hero of the film. So I have just one last question coming to my mind. Let's say we make a movie out of your life, and you are the lead star in that. Uh, how would you like to see the first scene of the movie start with? As in, where did your entrepreneurship journey start?
This is very, very interesting. I'll tell you honestly, I saw this movie called Guru when I was in college, and the first scene itself intrigued me a lot, and I would like to do that someday, where Guru Bhai goes out and there is Reliance Industry is doing that, and that was like I usually watch that movie a lot whenever I feel down, and like in a year I watch it 2 or 3 times for sure, and I would like to do that, something like this.
Awesome. Thanks for your time, Ishan. And it was a great pleasure to have you on our platform.
Yeah, thank you so much.